Serious, in the spirit of October, what's the creepiest or most paranormal experience that has happened to you? Though it wasn't actually paranormal, it still scared the crap out of me. It was about 3 in the morning and I had just gotten off YouTube where I was watching a bunch of videos about the Mothman, who apparently has 2 massive eyes, important later. I then went to the toilet. I live in a small flat, so the toilet is just down the hallway for me. As my mother was sleeping in the room next to me and I didn't want to wake her up, I didn't turn any lights on, which is normal for me. When I finished and left the bathroom and decided I was a bit hungry and went to get a snack, also not unusual for me. The kitchen is literally 5 or 6 steps to the left of the bathroom. As I was slowly walking, I thought to myself, imagine if there were 2 big red dots in the window, that would be funny. Then when I stepped into the kitchen and looked at the window, there were 2 big red dots in the window. I jumped back and gasped rather loudly and tripped on the back of the kitchen door, and then fell with a loud bang. I got up immediately and the dots were still there. I quickly noticed that the dots were just a reflection and I felt quite stupid. I looked around for what was causing it and it was just the plugs for my fridge and boiler. Since they are both quite important, they have special switches with exposed fuses with light up so you can see it. They're working properly and they were red as the safety glass on them was colored red. I got my food then went to bed with a rather large bump on my head. Funny thing is, I am pretty sure one of the videos I watched was from a guy called Operator Liru, playing a custom game in Arma about the Mothman, and then some videos about Mothman stories, then top folklore monsters. Or something like that. Night shift in a hospital. Went to the toilet, both cubicles empty, sat down to do the business and someone started crying in the next cubicle, bolted out of there, the other toilet was empty. Different night, soon after I started working on this particular ward. Sat at the bottom of the ward so me and another nurse could get a good view of everyone. Without looking up from her notes, she said, "Footsteps are back again." I said, "What footsteps?" She just said to listen. Heard footsteps come from the top of the ward to where we were, then go back to the top end. She didn't even flinch, just said, "You get used to it." There were some other issues with that particular unit. Eventually a priest came to bless it, and crashed his car on the way home. It has been decommissioned now. So back in the early 2010s I lived in a house with a kick-ass basement. It had a mini bar, a 2-room bedroom down a small hall next to the laundry room, and I had a giant TV to play video games on. Now I had never been scared of basements. Yet something always felt off about the hallway. I just felt unwelcome in that area. My parents commented years later it looked kinda like the room you would put a grandparent in. So, I've never been in a house with major paranormal experience before, and none with malicious paranormal entities. However, I had plenty of stories from my parents of odd nighttime activities I don't remember. Things like standing seemingly fully awake at the door of their bedroom saying nothing, then going back to bed, or bolting up in my sleep and one time saying, "I don't want to be sick like this anymore," when I had slept soundly through the whole night according to me. The kicker was when I was in that basement and for some reason unknown to me I looked back from my chair towards the main room area. From the deck door I saw a weird shadow about human-sized and vaguely human-shaped gliding across the floor toward the end of the bedroom where the hallway was. It looked 2D, but almost truly 2D, unlike what you might see on a screen. It glided towards the wall, but right for where the bedroom might be on the other side. I had a good spook. I turned back to the TV to process, then looked back and it was gone. I bolted up the stairs then. Despite this, I didn't feel threatened. I just felt like I was unwelcome in that hallway area. Eventually I ended up sleeping in that room as my bedroom. I grew acclimated to the presence over time, but it never did anything bad to me. It just kind of existed, perhaps just wanting to be alone, but not rude/intrusive. I've had far creepier experiences, but this one popped in my head first because it happened on Halloween. I was on candy duty, and the latest we've ever had trick-or-treaters come was like 9:45 p.m, I can't remember if that happened that same year or not. But it was a rainy Halloween night. 10 p.m. comes along, and at that point I figured we'd get no more trick-or-treaters, so I'm doing some chores and watching TV. Sometime after 10 p.m., I suddenly hear 4 knocks on what sounded like a window from the back. I got confused because usually I could see if a car pulled in the driveway, headlights shining etc., and I didn't see anyone pull in. I'm in a somewhat rural area, so usually the trick-or-treaters are driven by their parents house to house. And not only did that confuse me, but why would someone knock on a back window/door? I looked at the driveway and saw no car, but I grabbed the candy dish anyway and I checked all the doors. No one was there. I looked out the windows to see if maybe a prankster was lurking around, which would have been a first for us, but still didn't see anyone. And if it was a prankster, why would they do that in the rain? Usually people don't like the rain. So unless they ran fast or they hid somewhere, there was no one there. I'll add that I have a game camera too that doubles up as a security camera if there's a trespasser, which has happened, and it didn't capture anything that night, but maybe they didn't cross the path of the camera. So it could have been a prankster, but I'm leaning towards not. TLD, I heard knocking on a back door/window after the expected trick-or-treating hours on a rainy Halloween night, didn't see anyone. So I'm home alone, on my couch playing Minecraft. I look out the window, a orange bike comes down the street with a kid holding it. About 30 minutes go by and the bike comes down the street again. Without the kid. Without anyone. It's rolling down the street by itself and then gets picked up in the air. I question. I don't think much of it. 10 more minutes go by and I look out. The bike is laying there without the wheels, and I don't know what this is, like a prank, because there's other middle schoolers my age, ride their bikes all the time. One of them has a brother looks like the kid from earlier. His garage was open, his bike was there. I don't know what's going on, but I don't question it. I go back to playing Minecraft. I saw a child with no eyes stare back at me when I woke up. This happened last year. I was in my room playing on my computer as my dog for no reason started barking at doorway to my room. I told her to shush, but she continued. Then door slowly started to close and my dog barked louder. I tell my dog to shush as the door shuts loudly. I went to see if it was my parent, but no one was there. I went to play again, trying not to think about it. Never that happened to me again. My house is a few houses away from a murder house. A man shot his wife and daughter. It was sad and horrific. Behind our house, an old lady passed away in an old, deplorable house. We have a few neighbors with severe mental illness and one that is disabled. Basically, we have maybe 3 normal neighbors including the kind disabled woman. Anyway, our house is always dark and creepy due to the trees around us. There have been several instances such as shadow figures walking outside. One of the more creepier instances I've had is the doors opening and shutting followed by heavy footsteps and dragging on the floor. I've opened mirrors only to see something walk by. I'll turn around and go into the hallway and there's no one there. I firmly believe that I was dehydrated during some of these instances, but my family has reported seeing stuff which might be the result of me mention things I've seen. I don't know for sure as there isn't too much evidence behind the paranormal. From what I've seen though, a lot of people have had encounters, so obviously something is going on. I just don't see how it's okay to label someone as crazy just because they've seen a few things. As long as they're logical and open-minded, who cares? Just my 2 cents. One day while I was in my room, an object randomly jumped up without anyone touching it. Later the same thing happened in the bathroom. I was 15. I saw my brother standing at the top of the stairs, but he was sleeping on the couch to my right. It was when I was around 7. I was lying in bed and about to fall asleep and I heard a slam, which at that time could have been a screen for because it does not lock well, so I went to lock it properly and it was locked fine, and I start to head back up the stairs and see my dog staring into the living room. I didn't think much of it, so I went to my room. When I got to my room I laid in my bed and my door was open and I look over and there is an old woman with something like blood running out her. mouth, and I was very scared, so I just stared, and then I thought about who lived in my house before she was older and a heavy smoker, so I looked at the picture on the wall and looked back, and she was gone. That time was very real for me, and I realized that I was never alone. No matter what I did, something was always there, and I don't mind it. I saw something. It was late at night and my family and I was at this pork festival. When I was about to go home, I saw an apparition of something. That thing was covered in white sheets. It was fully covered. Then it jumped once and disappears. I was the only one who saw it back then, so I kept it, because my family is a very religious family and they wouldn't believe me.